EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Football Friday bye-week edition here on Birds 365 as the Eagles enter the bye. It's week 9 in the NFL. The Birds are sitting at 6-2, and we got plenty of stuff to recap here, give you our midterm grades, and kind of break it all down as we enter a weekend of football with no Eagles on the TV or happening at the link or anywhere else. Johnny Mack, how you doing on this Football Friday, my friend?
Doing well. Trying to get to Tuesday, the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Silly in season trade deadline.
Well, it is silly season, John, and I'm sure I and everybody else knows what you're referring to. The Myles Garrett to Eagles is back, John. We did it in the summer, and it is back here at the trade deadline. John, just before I muddy it, your thought on what you've seen so far and what you know. What report you can add, if any, or credibility, or what's real and what's not out there right now, John?
Well, like I always say with Howie Roseman, everything's real in the fact that you can feel very comfortable as a national person that you can throw the Eagles in the mix with anybody,
yeah, right.
Because they're making the call. I mean, The best way I could describe Howie is, his what would upset him if somebody like that got traded and he didn't get involved or understand the market price or something like that, like he was surprised, which is not going to happen. So you're always going to make those phone calls. Now, as far as giving up 3 first-round picks, well, there's a number of things. One, Andrew Berry, let's make this very clear, has said consistently back even during the spring before they work things out, he's not trading. And Andrew was obviously here and sort of understands and has a quote from, at least he did, from Howie in his office, has tremendous respect for Howie Roseman. Basically understands and has tried to carry over the Eagles' philosophy to Cleveland as far as building a team. Now, you got to hit on the quarterback, which they haven't been able to do, and that's been their biggest issue. But so it would be surprising if he were to trade a player like that because he's, arguably the best defensive player in the world and has been there for a long time. And the brilliant thing about Myles Garrett is doesn't matter if you're not having success. He's on a bad team. He's out there getting 5 sacks. He doesn't give up. He keeps playing. He's maybe the most dominant pass rusher in football. He's not. He's right there with Micah Parsons, who the Eagles also tried to get, even though it was silly to even think they could. Because as goopy as Jerry Jones is, he wasn't going to do that.
That's part of the reason, though. I think there's some truth behind this, John. Because this was one of those players that the Eagles would send the house for. They would pay the big money.
Oh yeah. That part of it's not that out of realm.
So you're saying if Myles Garrett were to get traded, and obviously the assumption right now is that Andrew Berry and Cleveland will not trade him, but if he were to trade him, the Eagles would be willing to part with 3 first-round picks. Yes or no?
I mean, if you look at it from the standpoint of it, and really the Cowboys more or less confirmed this to be the case. I believe it was 2 first-round picks, maybe a 3rd-round pick, a late-round pick, and other things. For Micah Parsons. So I think that's the template. I'm sure they try to get it under 3. But remember, the Eagles' philosophy is they're going to be drafting 25 to 32, hopefully 32.
Yeah, right.
Now, I saw someone bring up, there's a lot of layers to this, and this is true. If you look at the Eagles' last picks in that area, Quignon's a little bit out, but he was 22. Nolan Smith was 30. Jahad Campbell was 31. And if you look at, hey, would you trade Quinyon Mitchell, Jahad Campbell, Nolan Smith for Myles Garrett? Doesn't look as slam dunkish as it would. But here's where I think that's off base. Like Nolan Smith and Jahad Campbell were both expected to go much higher in their respective drafts. And a lot of teams are scared because their GMs don't have the rope to take a chance. And that's where Howie sort of has that outlier where he can pick the guy that's bowling that should be higher for whatever reason. This year, Campbell was injury related, and say, I'm going to take a shot on this guy. So he's not like a normal 31st pick. And if you're sending that 31st pick to somewhere else, they can't take that same chance. So I don't like the process of looking at, well, look at what the Eagles did with these picks.
Yeah, I don't either, but it is fair to at least put the players there just to give you people an idea of like what that might, you know what I mean? Of
what I'm saying is it's not going to happen like that for another team. Yeah. So that's not going to be, it shouldn't be their philosophy.
That makes sense. But John, hear me out here. I mean, and again, I get it. Trading Myles Garrett, if you're the Cleveland Browns, sounds to me dumb. The team, as you just mentioned, doesn't have a quarterback situation. Andrew Berry, for all he's cracked up to be, and he learned from the Eagles, and he wants to build it like the Eagles. Well, he hasn't done a very good job of coming close to what the Eagles are. The Browns and the Eagles are two very different football teams, despite Andrew Berry being at the helm for a while. And, John, if they did make that move, let's just call it 3 firsts for right now. That would give the Cleveland Browns 7 first-round picks in the next 3 years. So for a team that needs a quarterback, and a team that's probably going to have a top 10, maybe top 5 pick on their own pick, all right, now you got a late first-round pick. You can couple them up. You can get to the number 1 spot pretty easily. Or, go up and get whoever it is you want. From the Browns' perspective, and I'm trying to look at this as objective as I can, it feels like it makes some sense to me because they're so far from being in contention.
Yeah, I don't think it makes any sense for let a player like out the door.
So you don't think it has anything like remember we used to talk about Saquon. Saquon's a great player, but signing him for the Giants made no sense. And again, I know edge rusher is a more important position than a running back, but the team doesn't have a quarterback. Like they're not.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. If you get it right, and you can get it right in a bunch of different directions, whether it's a draft pick.
I don't have a very good track record of getting it right, unfortunately.
Well, no, but all you need is once. Obviously, for many years, the Eagles didn't have a great track record, and they had to go outside the organization and get stopgaps, gaps like Michael Vick. But in between Don and McNabb, you had the early spike of Carson Wentz, who's a second pick, and then you get a second-round pick, and it wasn't even your plan, and it worked out. So there's a lot, and then we talk about the reclamation projects, the Baker Mayfields of the world. Maybe they shouldn't have let him out the building,
right.
But on the other hand, he might have needed that kick out the building to turn his career around. And the Sam Darnolds, the Daniel Joneses. There's a lot of ways you can go about it, and the point is, it's very easy to turn things around in this league if you get the quarterback right. And, the best example of that is Minnesota last year with Darnold versus Minnesota this year with McCarthy and Wentz. 14-win team to a team that's going to be picking top 10 in the draft again. You can turn, if you have good players elsewhere and you're ready to go and you make the right decision at quarterback, you're ready to go, period. If they had, forget about a star. If they had, with Baltimore starting, now Baltimore's going to run away with that division, by the way.
Yeah, I know too.
If they had competent play at quarterback, they might be in control of that division. That's how quickly it can change in the NFL. But to the point of where the Eagles are going to pick. So, yeah, and again, I bring up, Jahad and Nolan Smith. All right, last year 27-32. Not this year because it's too early, but 27-32. We'll use that. Darius Robinson from Missouri, Xavier Worthy from Texas, Tyler Guyton from Oklahoma, Nate Wiggins from Clemson, who's a guy I like, but let's be realistic. Ricky Pearsall from Florida, Xavier Leggett from South Carolina. That's 27-32. In the real world, that isn't the Philadelphia Eagles that have the rope to maybe take some chances. That's
but they would be loading up their arsenal. I get what you're saying, but it doesn't guarantee that they're going to pick. Hey, maybe.
Well, and if you want to go,
like for one of these reclamation projects that might be out there. I don't know how many are left that aren't settled into where they are now, but maybe they go that route instead of trying to draft a quarterback.
Well, generally you do that in a different way, free agency or whatever. But if you go back to the Nolan Smith year, it's Anton Harrison, Miles Murphy, Brian Breezy, Nolan Smith, Felix Anudike Uzama, and Joey Porter Jr. Okay.
Yeah. No, all right, John. I know Myles Garrett feels untradeable if you're the Browns. Everybody's got a price, and especially the richest people in the world will
I think more of it is Myles. If Myles says, you know what, I'm done with this bullshit. Like the player same thing we could say. Well, then he shouldn't have signed the contract. But same thing we say all the time about AJ Brown. AJ's not going anywhere unless he makes it completely untenable. That's the trump card. That's the trump card a player has. And sometimes they use it. Is this rumor kind of similar to AJ from a sense of the Eagles say they're not trading AJ, but other teams don't believe it yet? Same thing with Cleveland, kind of Andrew saying exactly, we're not trading him, but other teams are like, I'm not sure if you won't trade him. Kind of the same thing there, right? Similar. Exactly. And a lot of people, because that's the way, again, typical organizations do business. They put it out there that we're not trading them, but other GMs work on the history of the league and they know disgruntled guys. And if you reach the offers, there's a goofy, I don't know, because I don't know the person. I never heard of the person, but New England offered a second-round pick for AJ Brown. That's not going to reach the bar of an offer you can't refuse. So yeah, but it's generally coming from outside saying, all right, and then when the case of Myles, the Eagles are on the outside. So it's like, hey, if you are going to move them, and obviously Howie has a very good relationship with Andrew. If you are going to move them, that's where Howie sets himself up.
Right.
I'm willing to go here. I'm willing to do this. So from the Eagles standpoint, I'd give up those 3 picks.
Me too.
In a millisecond. Yeah. It's funny when we go back to the spring and we were talking about Myles Garrett and people are talking, you can't trade Nolan Smith. Now I saw, and I don't want to out the people, but I saw you can't trade Jelix Hunt. You can't trade Tanner McKee for Myles Garrett. Are you people insane?
I might have been guilty of some of that at some point as well, maybe, but that is just ridiculous. I mean, I would do anything to get this. John, what do you think the price is, though? Like, what is the realistic price where you think Jimmy Haslam might step in and say, whoa, we got to think about that. Like, what do you think that would be? Is it 3 1s? It probably isn't, especially if you're the Eagles. Is it 3 1s and Nolan?
If you throw, I think they would want 3 1s because you generally want draft picks more than players. Generally. Now, to the point about Tanner McKee, if you throw a quarterback in the mix, that'll get you down to 2 and Tanner McKee and something else. If they like Tanner McKee, and I have no idea if they like Tanner.
Yeah, but don't we have to wow Andrew right now? He doesn't want to trade him. So we might have to pay a premium.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if they like, because they desperately need a quarterback. So if they like Tanner McKee, and I have no idea if they like Tanner McKee.
How could they not like Tanner Manning?
Well, yeah, there's still some questions there, but you never know what people's evaluation of players outside their respective buildings are. But I use the Myles template, which is pretty much, as I said, confirmed. 2 first-round picks, a 3rd-round pick, a 5th-round pick, and more. they probably want to be in that same realm, and Moore is probably a player or two. And some of they're going to have a roster glut. They have to get rid of some players anyway. But you would think they'd be more meaningful players. And if you bring in Myles Garrett, you don't need. Let's be honest, you don't need Nolan Smith or Jalix Hunt. One of them.
I would get rid of Nolan before I got rid of Jalix, but I understand that Nolan's an injured player and they might want Jalix.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I don't think, I think people are way too high on Jalix at this point.
Well, I do too, but I think you got to keep some young bodies. You know what I mean? Myles Garrett,
I'm saying I'm saying one of the two, not both. But,
yeah.
And it would be like, which what do they like best? My assumption would be it would be Nolan.
But Nolan was a first rounder. Is he going to be due? I mean, he also might be due a bigger contract soon.
Yeah, well, that factors into it too. The business and the money and contracts factor into it. But yeah, I mean, they've always loved the player. They're in awe of the player. I mean, their love of Myles Garrett is long known. And what's not to love? Again,
it's not entirely BS though, right? Like, because people are like, oh, another Myles Garrett rumor. This isn't entirely BS though, is it? Like they're willing to do. If the Browns wake up on Tuesday morning and say
the same thing as AJ Brown, same thing. They don't want to trade him, and nobody believes it. Same thing the Eagles with AJ Brown. The Eagles say they don't want to trade AJ Brown. I know they don't say it publicly, but that's what they say.
The only difference is the Eagles are 6-2. The Browns are what, 2-6 for crying out loud?
Yeah. Nobody believes the Eagles don't want to trade AJ. Nobody believes that the Browns don't want to trade Myles. And I think both of them are telling the truth, and they don't want to trade. The Eagles don't want to trade AJ, and the Browns don't want to trade Myles. But everybody takes, it's not like somebody calls you and you hang up the phone. You'll listen to what they have to say.
That's why I said if you want to do it, Eagles, you're going to have to wow them. You're going to have to really wow them. You're going to have to make Jimmy Haslam step in and say, Andrew, I don't give a shit what you say. We're taking that deal.
Well, if Andrew's smart, he won't even give Jimmy that chance. But
Howie knows that. Howie will work.
Well, I don't think Howie. There's way too much, but Howie's not going to screw Andrew Berry like that. So
I don't think giving him 3 1s and Nolan is a screw job.
I mean, going over his.
Yeah, I got you.
Going over his head. He's not going to do that. Even though you might have a bit of a wild card there. Yeah.
All right. So what was the report yesterday? It was from Mary J. Cabot, right? She reported it. Is that her name? Mary J. Cabot? Yeah, Mary K. Cabot.
Mary K. I don't know who did it first. I saw it from Charles Robinson first.
Oh yeah, that's right. I saw him as well.
But I don't know. It might have been Mary Kay. Mary Kay is very plugged into the
That's what I mean. That's why I was like, that's interesting. Now, I did think she confirmed it, but she also put out last night that the Browns insist that they are not trading Myles.
Zero chance is what she most recently reported.
Anybody it's never zero. All right. It's never zero. But
that's from the team. She's reporting what the team is telling her.
Yeah, but again, like Jeffrey Lurie said in the interview, no, we're not trading AJ Brown, but we're always going to do what's best for the Eagles. I mean, there's a price. There's always a price, John. Always a price. At least.
Well, if you want to go to 5 first-round picks, I'm sure.
No, I'll go to 3. I'll go to 10. I'll go 3 1s. Tanner McKee and Nolan Smith. Goodbye. Done. Don't care.
Wow, I'm shocked.
Later.
I'm shocked. I can't. I can't even get you can't trade Tanner McKee for him. Those people gotta wake up, man. Come
Oh
on.
my God! What would this defense be? Let's just live in
Oh,
fairy tale.
you
God, I
know,
know you don't like to live in fairy tale land very much, but live there for 5 minutes.
well,
What
it's
would this
funny.
defense be with Myles Garrett on the team?
None of these things, history, none of these things work out the way you think they're going to work out. There's notable exceptions, but I mean, on paper, I mean, they're going to win the Super Bowl if he stays healthy.
I agree.
I mean,
That's exactly what I said yesterday. I said you schedule the parade on Broad Street if you get Myles Garrett. I mean, he's the
and
best run stopper and the best pass rusher in football. This guy is rarefied air to the extreme.
yeah, it's very similar. That's what you heard Rick Saratella talking about Micah Parsons, who he had as number one in the NFC when I asked him that question. He picked Green Bay, and he picked Green Bay because of Micah Parsons. Myles is above Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
And the beauty of him is, again, like, there's no reason he should be getting 5 sacks in week 8 or week 9 with that moribund team. But he never stops working. He never stops. Got 5 sacks in one game. Eagles fans are obsessed with sacks. The Eagles' whole edge rushing group through 8 games doesn't have 5 sacks.
Is
I don't think
Zadarius
they have
Smith, is he
5.
still the leader in the edge rushing room? He's been retired for a couple weeks. He might still be the leader in the clubhouse.
I think does Shell accept 2? I don't even know, but
I don't know. Yeah, I know he had 1.5 Zadarius
Yeah.
Smith. So
yeah, I don't think that matters, but yeah, I mean, he makes that go. Would be
it might
interesting.
not matter, John, but I'll tell you what it does do. It does highlight why maybe we should want Myles Garrett. Yes, he's still the leader in the clubhouse with 1.5 sacks. Patrick Johnson, Jalix Hunt, and Josh Uche are all behind him with 1. That's the outlook on the Eagles' edge rushing room right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to happen, but yeah.
Darlene says, "No, don't care how good he is. No one is worth 3 first-round picks."
Well, similar to all sacks aren't created equal, all first-round picks aren't created equal.
Very true.
Which is why I tried to point out what 27 to 32 has meant historically. You want to talk about a shit show? Go back to 2021. So that was the Aiden Hutchinson draft at the top. Kyle Hamilton, some great players in that draft. So 27 to 32, where the Eagles would be drafting, in theory, Devin Lloyd, Devontae Wyatt, probably the best of the bunch, and he's Cole Strange, Karlaftis is the best of the bunch. George Karlaftis, Daxton Hill, and Lewis Seen, our old buddy Lewis Seen. The bottom of the NFL draft typically is at the bottom of the first round. The hit rate is under 40%. And by hit rate, you're talking about not superstars, you're talking about competent starters.
I think it's more for the Browns. It would be like getting a treasure chest of assets that you can then deploy.
Yeah, then you got to deal with. That's what Jimmy Johnson did way back when he got the farm for Herschel Walker, when running backs were more valuable. It wasn't about the picks that he got. It was about what he did with the picks that he got. He kept flipping them for other assets. So it would be more like that for them, more the asset than the actual player. But I only bring that up because somebody bought, well, they got Jahad Campbell. Yeah, other teams don't act like the Eagles because they can't act like the Eagles. I talk about this all the time because their GMs don't have the rope that the Eagles GM has. So they can't afford to take chances.
The one thing I'm struggling with, John, with this is Why would the Eagles not trade A.J. Brown? Well, that's very obvious. They're 6-2. They're coming off a Super Bowl year. They're a prime Super Bowl contender this year. They're at the top of their division. They're at the top of their conference. Why would you trade A.J. Brown in the middle of the season? That makes no fucking sense. Agreed. If you're the Browns, you're like, I'm 2-6. I don't have a quarterback.
It's not, because what if you get a quarterback next year? You're picking in the top 10.
Yeah, but
what if you get a quarterback?
They've been saying that for 10 years. They haven't got it one yet. Why should I assume this year is going to be different? They got a 30-year-old.
So what you're saying is, and I get it, you want to get the player here. You're taking a defeatist attitude. Andrew Berry can't take it. Well, we didn't find a quarterback here. We made a mistake when I wasn't even here. I'm taking chances on, Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round and Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round and yada, yada, yada. And, my owner gave the worst contract in NFL history out to Deshaun Watson. You can't just go in and say, all right, we're done. We can't find a quarterback.
I get that, but you want to position
yourself. This league is built
yourself still, though, to be able to get that quarterback.
This league is
a couple more 1st-round picks would help you, I think.
This league is built on parity. And if you have good players and you're ready to go and you fight, and again, it doesn't even have to be the superstar. It doesn't have to be Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen. It could be Sam Darnold. It could be Baker Mayfield. It can be Daniel Jones. And all of a sudden, you're a contender. I mean, it is legitimate to say that Indianapolis, Seattle, and Tampa Bay are contenders. It's legitimate. I don't believe in Tampa Bay, but other people do, mainly because of the injuries more than anything else.
All right. So if a Pro Bowl level quarterback just appeared on the Cleveland Browns roster, would they be
they're ready to go. They'd win that division. Especially this year.
Yeah. Well, this year maybe, but I don't think they're that good.
With Baltimore getting off to that 1-5 start, they would have already lapped the field, and Joe Burrow getting hurt as well, because Cincinnati would have been better. Pittsburgh has its limitations, obviously, and it's the first place team now. This is the perfect example of if they had any competent play at quarterback, take those 3 guys, take any of them, put them in Cleveland, and
I still think they're the worst team in the division with a competent quarterback. Maybe better than the Bengals, but the Bengals still have the great equalizer in Joe Burrow. I know he's hurt right now.
I'll tell you what, if you look at that team, and I don't know if you've seen Judkins at all, but he's pretty impressive.
He's very good. Yeah, I liked him in college.
I think they're the same as those teams with a quarterback. The NFL is very close parity-wise.
I know, but we are talking about a team that has broken the scales of being bad for a long time.
Well, they had little spikes, with some.
They got rid of that quarterback, the guy who led them to the playoffs. They got rid of him. Screw him. Get him out of here.
At one point, they had a very good offensive line. It's kind of fallen off due to age.
Yeah.
But at one point, they had a top 5 offensive line. They had a lot of talent. Jim Schwartz, that was the number 1 defense in the NFL a couple of years ago. Number 1. They got a lot of talent on defense, and it starts with Myles. Yeah, 100%. They're right back in the playoffs if they have. And I'm not talking about Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. I'm talking about Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones. They're in the playoffs. That's how quickly it can change in this league.
Well, I mean, they sent Joe.
So that's the belief, and my belief, and it's based on being around the Eagles, is that simple fact of life. Now, the Eagles have too many good players, but they have that demarcation line I always talk about, where if you're above it, they're keeping you. Doesn't matter what the position, doesn't matter what the situation, they're keeping you. And if, then you have to make some difficult decisions if you have too many good players. And that's what happened with Milton Williams and Josh Sweat, players like that. And then you got to make some difficult decisions. But
if the Browns were willing to take this deal, would the Eagles do it? 3-1s.
Yeah, I think from the Eagles standpoint, I think, yeah, because they look at it like, well, they're going to be even more so. If you get Myles, they're going to be down 28-32. I mean, and that
I can't even.
and that's the difference of, like, you had that comment. I don't give up 3 first-round picks for any. Well, I don't give up 3 top 10 first-round picks for anybody. I agree with that. 28. If one of them's 28, one of them's 32, and one of them's 31, and you're getting Myles Garrett. And by the way, I don't think that gets
they can have whatever they want.
I don't think that gets it done, because Andrew Berry's not dumb and he knows where those picks are going to be as well.
What would it take then? What would it take? What would it take for Andrew Berry to not be able to say no?
I think at least two meaningful players and some extra picks thrown in, like a third round. Like I use that third and a fifth.
So 2 or 3 meaningful players and a third or something.
Yeah, third and a fifth. Throw in a day 3 kicker, because GMs love picks.
All right, I'll go 2 1s, Tanner, Nolan, a third, and a fifth.
Dude, well, again, yeah, you have to like, I don't know if they like Tanner McKee.
Yeah, right,
my perception is
that's for them. They'll figure that out. I mean, what I'm trying to gauge is at what point does the conversation become, because I think it's real. I think because there's people in here who said the Eagles would never trade 3 first-round picks. I think they would if Andrew Berry would make the move.
Yeah, well, I think they would if Myles. Yeah, for Myles Garrett, they would. They already proved it with Micah.
Yeah, they were in them on Micah. I mean, he's that player.
Micah's a little bit younger, but Myles is better. If he keeps himself in good shape, I don't think you have to worry about that.
Yeah, I think that dude's going to be a beast till he's 35. But I get it. Father Time waits for nobody. There's no guarantee of
that. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you don't let players like that out of your building unless they force their way out of their building. And I've seen no evidence that he's going to force his way out. So I think it's just other people presume, just like they are with AJ. I don't care what you say. You're going to trade him. It's the perception is outside more than inside.
But it did seem like there was a report that the Eagles were offering 3 1s. No, I mean, that's kind of how I read it. Not speculation of like, hey, this is what the Eagles would send. It was more like the Eagles are offering this. The Browns are still saying no. That's how I read it. But and Mary Kay Cabot, I mean, she's not,
Yeah, well, I don't think there's been any formal offer. So I don't know where that comes from, but from Mary Kay's, and again, she's very plugged in to Cleveland. They have said 0 chance, hasn't even been discussed. So take it for what you will.
Real quick, last note on it, and then we're going to move on. We got plenty of bye week discussion today.
And
guys.
By the way, can I just add one thing?
Yeah,
Howie's in people's heads. I say it all the time. Howie's in everybody's heads. No, it's a good thing for the Eagles. Like, I think all these perceptions come from outside Philadelphia. Oh, Howie's going to do this, Howie's going to do that, because Howie's always running laps around these guys. He's in people's head. That's a good thing for the Eagles. It's a good thing. But as I've said from day one, they love this player. I mean, love it. Well, and what's not to love? You could probably say that about 31 other teams, but they love this player.
Last talk on it real quick, and we're going to turn the page. We're going to do midterm grades. We got a bunch of good stuff planned for today, everybody. We'll take some super chats. We'll get everybody's thoughts on the 6-2 Eagles at the bye week. All right, so hang in there. Contract, does it make we didn't even talk about that, the contract element of it. I know he's making a lot, but honestly, it feels like a bargain after seeing what Micah Parsons and Aiden Hutchinson are making. But how much does that complicate it? I know there is dead money that Cleveland would have to take. Is there a way for the Eagles to offset that? What do you see with that part of it, John?
Yeah, I mean, well, you've seen in trades in the past, something will happen as far as manipulating the contract. But it is a big matzo ball, as Jerry Seinfeld would say. So, yeah, you're presumably if something like that came down, you'd be dealing. And Miles's agent is, by the way, is Jalen Hurts' agent.
Yup.
So,
Nicole Lynn. I know Jalen's calling. Come on, Nicole. Come on, talk to Andrew. We need Myles in Philly. Oh, man.
So I'm sure there'd be some manipulation. But they just signed him to that huge extension, Cleveland. And the dead cap hit for them is just astronomical. So yeah, that's another reason why it's very, 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 very unlikely.
Yeah. Dad said Spot Track did a breakdown of his contract, so I'd have to check that out and see how realistic it is. But probably not, obviously, based on them just paying him. But wouldn't surprise me if Andrew Berry structured his contract similar to Howie in that way too, or it could probably move.
Oh yeah, they do business the exact same way as the Eagles as far, but that's not the problem.
Very different results.
The problem is, because everything ultimately comes down to evaluation, as I always say, and they haven't found a quarterback, so it's very difficult to win in this league without a quarterback.
3 first rounders will help them get that quarterback.
Well, not necessarily, because if you see, and they don't need them, number one, because they're going to be up there on merit.
Well, remember, they have 2 already this year, John, because of the Jacksonville trade. You get another first round pick in this year's draft, you're going to be able to go to anywhere you want on that board.
You're going to have a good launching point, number one. And by the way, it also depends on which quarterback you like. Because there was a lot of hype about this quarterback class coming out of college. That hype has dissipated.
Yeah.
So there's so many factors that go into it. But the dead money, it's highly unlikely. But again, there's always manipulation of these contracts. If somebody's willing, you just saw it with Michael Carter on a very low level, giving up $5 million in injury guarantees. So there's always manipulation you can do, but the contract itself is set up very much like an Eagles contract. You have these huge cap hits down the road, and then 58 million or so in 29 and 30, and obviously by that point you would have to redo something. So very unlikely, but there will be adjustments if something happens, which is not, nobody. And again, you just saw it with Carter. There's no way to predict that kind of stuff and what people are willing to do to get out of a certain situation.
Yep. So real quick, this is what the Spotrac guy put out. Highly unlikely, but trading Myles Garrett, the new team cap hits. 25 would be 1.2 million. 26 would be 8.1. 27 would be 16.1. And then it continues to go up. If you guys can see those numbers, let me see if I can get that. There's those numbers.
And by the way, 29 and 30 are meaningless because you got to redo it.
And then there's the dead cap, John. 20.6 for the Browns this year and 40 next year. I don't know if there's a way to offset that to some extent, but it doesn't feel that crazy to me. But holy mackerel, if this team got Myles Garrett, I will see you on Broad Street.
Yeah, I thought the dead cap was a lot bigger than that. I mean, the dead cap alone, before you look at trades post June 1st, yada yada yada, was 125. So typically that's an Eagles trick, bookkeeping trick. So if you got it down that low, Godspeed to Andrew Berry, by the way. But an example of that's probably another reason why people say maybe they do it. So all of that And I don't even factor in the contract because the Eagles will figure out a way. They just
Me
will.
too. Me too. That's
But
what I always say that.
but what I do factor in is Andrew's not letting that guy out of that building until he makes it untenable. And I've seen no evidence he's making it untenable to move forward.
Well, remember, he thought about making it untenable in the summer. Then they shut him up with a massive contract, and maybe now he's slamming his helmet after 5 sacks. I don't know, John. Maybe it is a little bit. I don't know. Maybe it's untenable. Maybe it's not. If anybody's going to make it happen, in my opinion, I think it'd be Howie Roseman. But we will see what ends up happening with it, John. Well, I tell you what, though, him coming here would be unfreaking believable for this football team.
There'd be a little hype along with it.
A little hype. I would give away 50 Myles Garrett jerseys.
Whoa! Listen,
literally, I will go to my guy.
But would you give up Tanner McKee?
Oh my God!
I hope that was a joke. There was a certain, and I have to speak.
I'm pretty sure. I think it was. I think I saw what you're talking about.
I hope that was a joke. I hope that was a joke. But I don't know, man.
I will trade the house for Myles
Like
Garrett.
people were legitimately arguing, oh, you can't trade Nolan Smith for Myles Garrett in the spring. And I would just shake my head. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God.
Well, we'll see what ends up happening with it, Johnny Mac. A lot of good conversation. I bet nothing happens, but if something happens, I think the Eagles will be at the front of it. We will see. Let's go to our super chats here on the topic. Real Zeal says, not all sacks are created equal. What about pressures? Next Gen and PFF definition of a pressure rewards a pressure regardless of the play result as long as the QB's timing or pocket is disrupted.
Real Zeal is obsessed with proving sacks are bigger than pressure. First of all, if you listen, Real Zeal, I say all sacks are not created equally. I said all pressures are not created equally. Guess what? The pressure that Jalen Carter had in Minnesota is bigger than the pressure that you're talking about, the normal just moving the quarterback off the spot. The biggest pressure of all in recent Eagles history, Chris Long, also against Minnesota in the NFC Championship game. The Patrick Robinson pick six. Did you like that one, Real Zeal? Yes, pressures are all different. But as I said, when we were comparing Jordan Davis to Moro Ajomo as pass rushers for some reason yesterday, when you have a significant pressure percentage, that is a clear indication that you are a better pass rusher than a guy who doesn't have a significant pressure rating. And that is going to show up over a larger sample size as you being the better pass rusher. It is a more valuable statistic, but it is not a perfect statistic. Sacks are a less perfect statistic than pressure percentage.
Yeah.
But they both, there's holes in everything.
Here's Zeal. He follows up. 9 times out of 10, a sack is better than a pressure. They're both important plays. I mean, if you get a pressure on a quarterback, what are the
where is your evidence, Real Zeal, instead of just saying something? 9 out of 10 times. Think about what you're saying. Jordan Davis, you're all excited. This fan base is all excited by Jordan Davis has 3 sacks. 1 was for no gain, 2 was for no gain or 1 yard loss, and I forget the third one. I mean, where is the evidence? 9 out of 10 times. What are you watching? A Dentyne commercial or a dentist? 9 out of 10. I'm not going to say sacks are just making shit up.
I'm not going to say sacks aren't important to Zeal, but listen to the greatest quarterbacks talk about pressure.
I have said sacks are never a bad thing. I've said that consistently. Pressure percentage is a better indication of a good pass rusher than sacks because sacks are less. And again, you don't have to listen to me. Go listen to Chris Long, who did it for a long time. You have to look at every sack. Sometimes Fletcher Cox ran the guy into Chris Long and he got the sack and he was like, thanks, Fletch. pass rush is very similar to the offensive line. Good pass rushers. It is a unit situation. Now, occasionally you get guys like Myles and Micah who are just phenomenal on their own. But even that, you don't want them to freelance, because then you especially in the modern era, you let some of these mobile dual threat quarterbacks out. And if you're not disciplined, all of a sudden they're making big plays outside the pocket, yada, yada, yada. But I mean, look, you can't just throw out shit because you want it to be true. 9 out of 10 times. Yeah, all right. Give me your methodology, Real Zeal.
Let's move on. Nick Marchetti said, Nick, I love you, but this is the most Eagle thing I've ever read in my life. 2 1s, Nolan and Dean. Take our 2 perennial injured players and toss them in the deal for Myles Garrett. That's classic.
Yeah.
By the way, I'd rather send, I don't think that's going to get the job done at all, by the way. But if 3 1s isn't getting the job done,
well, first of all, it's Nolan's complicated by the fact he's not even back yet.
Yeah, he's injured.
Yeah.
And Dean has, obviously the injury history that he has.
Yeah.
That's why I wonder if Jalix might even be a little bit more valuable to Cleveland. Well, they probably don't look at him as very good.
Yeah, I don't think they're evaluating him at a high level.
You don't think they're putting a very high value on Jalix?
Not at this stage. Not at this stage.
All right, good stuff. Here's Vitality. What's up, Vulnerable? You may have already mentioned it, but would you trade Nolan, Quignon, and we talked about this. Nolan, Quignon, and Jihad for Myles Garrett. No guarantee those next 3 first-round picks will be as good. No, John talked exactly about that.
Yeah. The Eagles
got the treasure chest, though.
First of all,
they're going to have 7 first-rounders in 3 years. They're going to be able to go and trade for and go and move around the draft board however they want. Well,
I'm sure that's the selling point. Unfortunately, you're dealing with a smart guy who runs his organization like how. And again, you can point out, well, he doesn't run it as well. Yeah, the results haven't come yet, but they're the same as the Eagles. Believe in the process. If you do the right thing, eventually it's going to turn your way. Now, he might be fired before it turns his way, but that's his belief. So he's not gonna just bail on that belief. I don't think.
If Howie Roseman was 2-6 right now, though, I like to think Howie would be like, I need the 7 first-round picks.
Yeah, well, Howie would, if he was 2-6, he'd definitely be a seller. But I don't think he'd be selling Jalen Carter. And this is, let's be honest, if you want to be in this is Jalen Carter times 10. I don't think he'd be.
Can you imagine though Myles Garrett with Jalen Carter on the same D line?
It wouldn't be good. I'll tell you what, the rest of the NFL would be pissed off that Andrew Berry gave them to the Eagles.
They would.
But that doesn't matter to the Eagles, obviously. He wouldn't be giving away his best players. But yes, to your larger point, yes, he'd be trying to accumulate picks, but again, not at the expense of giving up, because everybody's got I say that all the time. Even the worst teams have really good players, and this is a perfect example of it. You don't give up your best players.
Here's Bird Gang. I remember arguing how important BG was when his pressure numbers were really good compared to his sacks. There's a good one there. Brandon Graham, great comp actually. Only had one double-digit sack season in his career.
Yeah, a lot of people. And it's interesting he brings, because Brandon's career in many ways has framed my thinking, because he was always underappreciated by people outside the league. And again, when we used to have opposing conference calls with the coaches, every single guy brought up Brandon and Fletcher first, either 55 and 91 or 91 and 55. Every single offensive coach would bring those 2 guys up for years and years and years. And outside the building, all they talked about, because of the low-hanging fruit, well, he doesn't have double-digit sacks, so he's not a great player. He was a freaking great player, Brandon Graham, in his prime.
All right, good stuff there, Johnny Mac. I want to get into some of the bye week discussions that we're going to have here on the show. They are 6-2, John, at the bye. They have a 2.5 game lead in the NFC East. I don't think anybody's catching them, to be frank with you. And I think they're really in a good spot right now. Obviously, there's plenty of stuff to talk about. Let's start with the injury updates, John, just at the bye week here. Couple people have been injured. This has been a more injured team than we remember early in the year here. You know, A.J. Brown obviously missed week 8 with the hamstring injury. Cam Jurgens has been banged up. Landon Dickerson has been banged up. Zadarius Smith retired. Brandon Graham comes out of retirement. A lot of injury stuff going on the team right now. What to you is the most concerning going into the latter half of the year?
Injury-wise, Nolan Smith would be my biggest concern.